Getting a past marriage back after cheating? Marge sat at the small table, looking out the window and cracking her hands. Her eyes were moist, not yet full of tears, but on the verge. However, when she heard me come in, the first tear rolled down her cheek. "Charlie, baby, we need to talk." That phrase never boded well for a happy conversation. Everyone, man or woman, married or single, knows it. I knew it better than anyone else. Sitting down in the chair next to her, I asked, "What's the matter, love?" She swallowed, speechless for a moment. "Yeah, Charlie, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to tell you this. It hurt her so much to say it. I knew it. I'd known it a long time ago. But now she was confessing to me, and I was letting go of her pain. Marge, I love you. Whatever it is, we'll get through this." My wife sobbed, one single sob, and said, "Baby, please. I don't know if we can." "Yeah. God, Charlie, I love you so much, but yeah." "Oh my God, Charlie, I cheated on you." Her hand covered her mouth as the tears flowed in earnest. "What?" Marge nodded, at first unable to get a word out. Her mouth opened and closed several times. Then she said, "I'm so sorry, Charlie. Yeah, we—" I took a deep breath and exhaled. "Tell me what happened, Marge. Why? Milt. It was Milt." She sniffled, and I held out a napkin to her. You were so angry after we fought. I can't even remember what we fought about, months ago. I got mad, and I went to a bar and got drunk, and Milt, your ex-boyfriend, Milt?" I raised my voice a little, giving it an angry tone. She wailed, "I'm so sorry!" "Was it just a one-time thing?" She shook her head firmly. "No, it wasn't like that. Charlie, I swear I didn't mean for it to happen once, but I was drunk and angry, and I don't even remember most of it. And during the time he was taking the pictures, the ones where you can see the wedding ring on my finger and—" She choked. "He told me he'd show you the pictures if I refused to continue." I knew the answer, but I had to ask. "For how long?" Marge lowered her gaze to her hands, startled by the fury in my eyes. "Since then. A couple times a week while you were at work. He'd come in and he'd wave the pictures around, telling me he'd send them to you. His face wasn't in them, and—" Marge looked up. "Please, baby, please. I didn't mean to do it, I swear, but I can't lose you. I'm so sorry." A tear rolled down my face. It hurt to hear her confession, and it hurt even more to see her like this. There was an angry note in my voice. "You'll never do it again, Marge. Never. I can forgive the mistake you made this time, and I understand why you didn't tell me, but it hurts me that you— I put my hand on hers. "We'll figure it out." "I love you, Marge. I'll always love you. Just never again, okay?" The look on her face was indescribable. Surprise, amazement, joy, love, hope, all blended into one expression. "Did you, really, Charlie? Will you forgive me?" I nodded solemnly. She rose limp from the chair and sat on my lap, sobbing. I led my frail, tired love to the small bed and enclosed her in my arms. Marge cried until she fell asleep. Tears of sadness and relief blended together and fell on my chest. She fell asleep a few minutes later. I brushed a silver strand away from her face and kissed her forehead gently. Then, slipping out of bed, I watched my wife of over 50 years sleep. Marge's small room in the memory care center for seniors with memory problems was filled with memorabilia of our life together. Pictures of our children and grandchildren, our friends, wedding photos, and small knickknacks adorned the shelves and walls. On the table was a vase, once broken but now restored. The cracks in the vase had been filled with gold, in some cases replacing small pieces that had been lost. When Marge first told me about her infidelity and Milt's blackmail, I had taken that vase, a gift from her beloved grandmother who died shortly after we were married, and threw the vase at the wall, shattering it to pieces. I then ran out of the house, afraid I would turn my anger on Marge. I was an angry and arrogant young man, so certain that there was something more behind her infidelity, certain that she had done it all of her own free will. I was ready to end our marriage and told myself it was all her doing. But the fight that made her leave the night she cheated was over nothing. My anger, a demon that showed up at any moment, was something she'd lived with for a long time. And eventually I'd gone too far with her, pushed her into the arms of a predator. I know that now. I couldn't accept it at the time, so I figured she was a willing participant. Marge could be very prickly. I was angry, but she also pushed my buttons when she felt insecure. She never went so far as to cheat, but she was beautiful and, when she wanted to piss me off, flirtatious. It wasn't until I ran into Joe, a buddy I worked construction with, that Sandy, his wife, told me that Marge wasn't the only woman Milt had seduced. He was a small-time asshole, handsome and charming in an oily way, always ready to buy a lady a drink. As it turned out, always ready to slip something in the drink. He'd been an asshole even when he and Marge had been together, but had gotten worse over the years, going from Lothario to, well, we didn't have a term for it back then. Asshole on a date is what it would be called a decade or so later. I didn't kill him. Almost. His survival wasn't easy, but he limped through the rest of his life, and those sweet boyish features were shattered. The asshole could have given Quasimodo a run for his money. And of course I didn't do anything at all. While Milt was broken and nearly bleeding out in an alley, I was playing poker at Joe's with him and 3 other good guys, and his wife was nice enough to keep the beer flowing in rivers. This was before DNA and forensics and all that other nonsense with acronyms, so it was our word against his. He left town about a year later. Hopefully he got hit by a bus somewhere out there. Marge stirred in her sleep, quietly muttering something inaudible. Today was not her best morning. Her best days were the ones when she not only recognized me, but knew where she was now, and knew why she was here. Those days were becoming fewer and fewer. The kids helped me get her to the center after her memory loss. I took a nap and Marge left the house. She was gone for several hours before the people living in our old apartment called me to let me know that she had been banging on the door and demanding to be let in. After Milt, things went back to normal in our marriage for a while. I knew she had been cheated on and abused. I knew I had acted like an ass, that I needed to get my anger under control. I knew we loved each other, but knowing is one thing, doing is another. Turning that knowledge into self-improvement, forgiveness, and rebuilding trust was the hardest thing we ever did. Marge and I spent a lot of time with our pastor, our friends, and our family trying to get back to something resembling the marriage we used to have. In the end, we made it through. There was mutual recrimination, fear, and anger, but there was always love. Marge was a new woman. Coming into contact with real evil made her realize how petty she could be sometimes. My last truly cruel act had been against Milt, and when I realized how much I had contributed to the probable breakup of my marriage, I tried my best to contain my rage. I wasn't perfect, and neither was she, but we were both working on ourselves and our marriage. The broken vase went to a box in the closet. I thought it was beyond repair, but Marge couldn't part with it. It wasn't until we visited an art museum when Marge was pregnant with our first child that I learned a way to put it back together. The museum was hosting an exhibit on a Japanese art form called kintsugi, which used precious metals to repair broken objects, restoring them and emphasizing the cracks and imperfections that appeared when they broke. The philosophy behind this was called wabi-sabi, accepting flaws as their own part of something, a sign of an object's history. For our anniversary that year, I gave Marge a refurbished vase stitched with gold stitching. She took my hand with tears in her eyes and whispered, "This is us." I just nodded and kissed her. We would never be who we were before, but we could be whole. Maybe we could be beautiful. I walked over to her bed and stroked her hair. She was so peaceful as she slept, her face free of the tension and worry I saw too often these days. She had been in the treatment center for the better part of a year now, and I had heard her confessions many times. The first time she relived that memory was the worst, both because it was such a searing pain and because I wasn't supposed to be the person I had become in the intervening years. She expected to see an angry young man, and when she didn't find him, she was even more confused and upset. It was wrong. I was wrong. The next time, I just tried to be him, the angry young man. It was even worse. She got as upset as when I ran away almost 50 years ago, to the point of being so upset that she had to be sedated. In the end, it was a delicate balancing act. I had to be angry enough to be recognizable, but not so angry that I could hurt her even more. I kept trying to hone my performance to be as gentle as I could, while still giving her what she needed to feel that she was truly confessing and repentant. I couldn't give any hint of what I knew because that was pissing her off too. It was still hurting. It was the worst time of our lives, and even if we had come out of it in one piece, it was painful to relive it again. That pain started to dull as I went through it over and over again, but it never went away completely. I tried to think of it as a blessing. It made it easier for me to play my part. But my pain was only a second compared to watching her pain, and I needed to do what I could to ease it. The best days, the ones when she was fully conscious, happened less and less often. But we had many good days. The ones when in her memory we were newlyweds, or when she remembered our children and wanted to indulge in memories. The ones where she mostly understood, where she was the Marge I knew. We kept those days in check when she was completely incoherent, when her eyes were dim with incomprehension or dilated with fear. I loved her, this woman who hurt me and whom I hurt. The woman who made me a father, who made me a better man, who gave me her life and restored herself to me. I was an angry, betrayed husband hundreds of times. I would play that painful role 1,000 more times if it meant I could have a few more good days with her, if I could make her bad days less painful until she was gone. She was a beautiful soul, my Marge. Not a broken thing to be thrown away. Yes, our history left its mark, and her psyche was fractured, fragments of memories that needed to be put back together. I try to be that gold for her that fills in the cracks to make her whole. The love of a lifetime exists between us. I am willing to nurse her and fix her for as long as I can. How can I do otherwise? The end.